Let's start with a hard truth: chasing a woman rarely works. Most men think if they text more, compliment more, or chase harder, they'll win her heart. But the exact opposite is true. When you pursue desperately, you signal low-value insecurity and neediness. A woman senses it instantly, not with her conscious mind, but subconsciously. Contrast this with confident men. A man who has boundaries, purpose, and a life of his own doesn't chase. He responds when he chooses, not because he fears losing her. That contrast between neediness and composure is magnetic. Consider this: the woman you want isn't drawn to your words, she's drawn to the energy you project. Chasing creates pressure. Pressure kills attraction. But when you stop pursuing and instead focus on your own growth, your presence becomes intriguing, even irresistible. She begins to wonder, why isn't he chasing me? What is he doing that makes him so confident? Chasing communicates a lack of self-respect. Confidence communicates value. And in the psychology of attraction, value wins every time. Attraction begins with emotional independence. Too many men tie their self-worth to a woman's attention. When she's distant, they panic. When she's warm, they feel secure. This roller coaster creates desperation. Emotional independence flips this dynamic. It means your happiness, self-esteem, and sense of purpose do not depend on her. It's about building a life that excites you: career growth, hobbies, friendships, and fitness. The more fulfilled you are independently, the more magnetic you become. Women are naturally drawn to men who are whole, not men who need validation. Emotional independence signals strength. I'm a man with my own world, and I'm inviting you to be part of it if you're worthy. Start small, focus on your daily habits, invest in skills, and pursue passions that bring you joy. Don't just act busy. Be genuinely invested in yourself. When she notices your focus and consistency, desire grows naturally. Remember, a man who can stand alone never fears being alone. And that fearlessness, it's irresistibly attractive. Attraction is a psychological game more than a physical one. Understanding female psychology is key to creating natural desire. Women are drawn to confidence, unpredictability, and high value. They are subconsciously looking for a man who challenges, excites, and inspires them. Predictability is boring. A man who is always available, always agreeable, always chasing triggers complacency. But unpredictability, when paired with respect and consistency, creates curiosity and emotional investment. Subtle triggers include confidence without arrogance, calm authority communicates strength. Self-sufficiency, a man who is invested in his own life signals high value. Controlled mystery, not revealing everything about yourself too soon creates intrigue. Women don't just respond to actions, they respond to emotional energy. A man who demonstrates emotional control, purpose, and independence creates a contrast she subconsciously desires. The more she notices this difference, the more she becomes drawn to you without realizing it. The secret: it's less about what you say, more about who you are. Your mindset shapes your energy, and your energy shapes attraction. Most men focus on the outer game, the right pickup lines, the perfect text, or grand gestures. But the truth is, outer game without inner game is meaningless. Inner game, the mindset, confidence, and emotional independence you've built, fuels your outer game naturally. Think of it like a foundation. Without a strong foundation, no matter how impressive your actions appear, they'll crumble under pressure. A man who cultivates inner strength doesn't need validation from a woman. He acts with intention, not desperation. Outer game is how you express your inner power, your body language, tone of voice, social cues, and subtle displays of value. But these only work if the inner game is solid. Without it, even the most polished gestures feel forced or desperate. To master attraction, start inside, assess your beliefs about yourself and women, identify areas where insecurity drives behavior, build habits that reinforce self-worth and independence. When inner game is strong, your outer game becomes effortless. You don't chase, you attract. You don't explain, you influence. And you don't plead, you create emotional curiosity that naturally draws her toward you. The man who masters both inner and outer game doesn't just make a woman want him, he becomes unforgettable. Here's the first hard truth: her initial disinterest isn't personal, it's biological. Women are wired to be selective. When she seems indifferent or uninterested, it's often a subconscious test of value, scarcity, and challenge. Scarcity drives desire. If a man is available 24/7, subconsciously undervalue him. When a man demonstrates that his attention and energy are limited, he becomes intriguing. Curiosity is another key factor. Women are naturally drawn to mystery and unpredictability. When they don't immediately understand a man's world, actions, or priorities, their mind fills in the gaps, creating fascination. Challenge principles also play a role. A man who appears too eager or too predictable is safe, but forgettable. Women often desire men who push boundaries, display independence, and maintain a strong sense of self. That sense of challenge makes the emotional reward of his attention far greater. Most importantly, remember this initial disinterest is not rejection. It's a filter. The women who are drawn to value, confidence, and emotional independence will notice and respond to contrast. Those who don't are simply not in alignment with the man you're becoming. Instead of chasing, focus on becoming the man who naturally triggers curiosity and desire. When she observes your confidence, calm energy, and independence, what once seemed indifference begins to shift. Men often sabotage attraction without realizing it. The three biggest mistakes are over-texting, over-explaining, and over-investing. Over-texting signals desperation. A flood of messages communicates insecurity, a need for validation, and a lack of self-control. Over-explaining, whether in conversations or apologies, reduces perceived value. It's like trying to convince her of your worth instead of demonstrating it naturally. Over-investing, spending too much time, energy, or money early removes the natural tension that fuels desire. Contrast this with confident behavior. A man who responds selectively, invests thoughtfully, and maintains boundaries immediately signals high value. He doesn't chase approval, he earns respect. Women feel the difference. They sense when a man's energy is abundant versus scarce, and that directly impacts attraction. Avoiding these mistakes requires self-awareness. Track your impulses to fix situations or overcompensate for perceived rejection. Redirect that energy to your own growth, social life, or hobbies. When you stop over-investing, scarcity naturally emerges, and with scarcity comes desire. The psychology is simple: the more predictable and available you are, the less compelling you become. The less she can reach you, the more she notices the value you bring to the table. Contrast framing is a subtle psychological tool that makes you unforgettable. Think of it like a highlighter in her mind. She notices the difference between confident, composed energy and needy, reactive energy. Needy men text constantly, respond immediately, and overshare emotions. Confident men pause, prioritize themselves, and maintain mystery. This contrast triggers emotional curiosity. Why doesn't he act like the others? Use contrast in small ways. Respond deliberately, not instantly. Speak with calm authority rather than over-enthusiasm. Show emotional control during disagreements. Every time she experiences this difference, it reinforces your value and uniqueness. Contrast isn't manipulation, it's alignment with your natural high-value behavior. It communicates strength, independence, and emotional stability. Women are subconsciously drawn to men who stand apart from the crowd, who don't follow the predictable pattern of attention-seeking. The more you consistently display this contrast, the more memorable you become. She doesn't just notice you, she starts thinking about you when you're not there. That's the core of magnetic attraction. Mystery is the secret ingredient in desire. A man who reveals everything immediately loses tension and intrigue. When you withhold some emotional or personal access, you naturally create curiosity. Mystery doesn't mean lying or being distant out of spite. It's about pacing your self-disclosure, showing selective vulnerability, and maintaining your own world. Let her wonder about your thoughts, your plans, and your emotions. Women are drawn to men who are not fully readable. When they feel that pull, their mind invests energy trying to understand you. That energy, anticipation, curiosity, and mental engagement creates desire that no amount of chasing can achieve. Balance is key. Too much mystery and she feels disconnected, too little and she loses interest. The optimal point is consistent, confident engagement while leaving room for curiosity to thrive. A man who masters mystery controls the emotional narrative. He doesn't need to prove himself. She doesn't need constant reassurance. And in that space, attraction grows organically, deeply, and sustainably. Confidence is magnetic. It's not about arrogance or showing off. It's about embodying self-assurance that women instinctively recognize. Daily habits create the foundation for this confidence. Physical fitness is a crucial starting point. A strong, healthy body signals discipline, self-respect, and vitality, all qualities that naturally attract. Beyond appearance, training cultivates mental resilience, focus, and energy levels, which translate directly into social interactions. Social skills amplify confidence. Being comfortable in conversations, demonstrating humor, and speaking clearly without over-apologizing signals competence. Women are drawn to men who can navigate social dynamics effortlessly because it shows security and leadership potential. Daily routines matter. Journaling, goal setting, and meditation reinforce a grounded mindset. A man who consistently invests in his growth radiates internal stability, which cannot be faked. Contrast this with men who constantly seek external validation. They appear reactive, anxious, and less attractive. Confidence is also about presence. When you walk into a room, your energy should subtly communicate composure and self-possession. You don't need to announce your worth, your demeanor does it for you. In essence, unshakable confidence is cultivated, not inherited. It comes from deliberate, consistent self-improvement, mastering physical, mental, and social domains. Women are drawn to it instinctively because it promises security, strength, and emotional leadership. Humans are wired to respond to social proof. Women notice men who are respected, admired, and validated by their peers. Social proof communicates value without words. Status cues, lifestyle achievements, reputation reinforce this perception. Your circle matters. Being surrounded by confident, accomplished people signals that you belong to a higher value environment. Women subconsciously evaluate how others perceive you, using this as a shortcut for assessing your worth. Lifestyle is another subtle cue. Engaging in hobbies, traveling, or pursuing ambitious goals shows independence, creativity, and abundance. These are traits women find attractive because they signal stability and growth potential. Contrast framing works here too. Compare a man who overinvests in validation with one who naturally commands respect. The former is easy to impress, predictable, and forgettable. The latter operates from a place of assured value, creating intrigue and desire. Reputation is equally powerful. Being known for integrity, competence, or leadership enhances perceived status. Women are drawn to men who are admired for their achievements or character. It's not about bragging, it's about letting your life reflect your value. When social proof, lifestyle, and reputation align, attraction becomes almost effortless. Women sense abundance and security, qualities that make them want to be around you and invest emotionally. Calm authority. Women respond to men who assert themselves naturally, without tension, fear, or intimidation. Subtle dominance shows in decision-making, boundary setting, and consistent behavior. A dominant man guides interactions smoothly and decisively, whether choosing a restaurant or leading a social setting. Aggression, by contrast, signals insecurity and triggers avoidance. Power and calm authority comes from emotional control. Men who maintain composure, even under pressure, communicate strength. Women feel safe and intrigued by such presence because it reassures them emotionally and creates a magnetic contrast to reactive, needy behavior. Contrast framing is key. Observe a man who loses temper over small inconveniences versus one who remains collected. The difference is stark. One repels, the other attracts. Subtle dominance inspires respect, curiosity, and desire simultaneously. Authentic dominance is rooted in self-mastery. It's cultivated through discipline, consistent boundaries, and confidence in personal decisions. Women unconsciously recognize these traits as indicators of long-term stability and leadership potential. Ultimately, the man who balances dominance with empathy and calm authority creates attraction effortlessly. Women are drawn not just to his actions, but to the energy and presence he radiates. Emotions are contagious. Women are attuned to a man's energy, often more than his words. Controlling emotional energy is critical for sustained attraction. Reactivity, anxiety, or desperation instantly undermines perceived value. Start with self-awareness. Recognize triggers that cause you to overreact. Texts, misunderstandings, or perceived slights. When you catch yourself reacting impulsively, pause, breathe, and respond from a grounded state. This shows composure, maturity, and strength. Regulating energy isn't suppression, it's mastery. Channel emotional intensity into productive outlets. Exercise, hobbies, work, or personal growth. By doing so, your presence becomes stable, calm, and magnetic. Women instinctively feel this difference. Contrast again is crucial. Compare men who overreact to minor setbacks with those who maintain composure. The former creates discomfort and tension. The latter creates curiosity, intrigue, and attraction. Stability and emotional energy signals security and predictability without predictability being boring. It communicates confidence and control. Maintaining this energy across interactions builds trust and desire. Women are drawn to men who consistently maintain calm authority, even in stressful or uncertain circumstances. Emotional mastery elevates attraction because women feel challenged yet safe, intrigued yet respected. Ultimately, emotional energy control is the backbone of irresistible presence. Without it, even confident status and dominance can falter. With it, attraction becomes sustainable, deep, and undeniable. Absence creates intrigue. Women are wired to notice value through scarcity, not abundance. When you're constantly available, she adapts to your presence, and attraction declines. Emotional gaps, strategically withdrawing attention, activate curiosity, desire, and subconscious investment. The principle is simple: let her feel the void of your attention, energy. Stop over-texting, over-explaining, or rushing responses. Instead, focus on your own growth, goals, and social life. This doesn't mean coldness or punishment. It's about self-respect and creating emotional contrast. Contrast framing is key. Compare men who chase relentlessly versus men who step back gracefully. The first appears needy and desperate, signaling low value. The second exudes independence, intrigue, and confidence, which sparks desire. Creating emotional gaps is more than silence. It's about presence without attachment. Engage fully when interacting, but maintain autonomy outside of those moments. Women notice when your life doesn't revolve around them. It's a subtle psychological signal that you are abundant and high value. When executed correctly, absence doesn't push her away, it draws her in. She begins to reflect on what she's missing, experiencing the subtle tension that creates longing. Emotional gaps are the strategic leverage that transforms initial disinterest into genuine curiosity and desire. Playfulness is a powerful attraction tool. Subtle teasing communicates confidence, intelligence, and social dominance while keeping interactions light and engaging. It signals that you are comfortable, playful, and not desperate for approval. Teasing works best when balanced with warmth. Light challenges, playful jokes, and friendly ribbing create contrast, sparking intrigue. A man who can make her laugh while hinting at his independence becomes memorable. Women enjoy the chase when it's fun, safe, and psychologically stimulating. Contrast framing again amplifies attraction. Compare men who are overly serious or agreeable versus those who tease strategically. The former is predictable and forgettable. The latter injects tension, curiosity, and subtle admiration. Subtle teasing also sets boundaries without confrontation. It's a way of asserting dominance gently, letting her know you value yourself and your standards. Done correctly, it builds emotional resonance, playful tension, and a subconscious sense of challenge, all of which increase desire naturally. Mirroring is a psychological technique where you subtly reflect her behavior, tone, and energy to create rapport. Women unconsciously feel more connected to men who reflect their patterns. It builds trust and attraction. Validation works hand in hand. Acknowledge her emotions, opinions, and experiences without overdoing it. Women instinctively notice when a man gets them. It triggers feelings of safety and emotional resonance. Contrast framing is essential. Compare a man who ignores cues or reacts impulsively versus one who subtly mirrors and validates. The latter is perceived as intuitive, emotionally intelligent, and desirable. The former risks friction, confusion, and disinterest. Mirroring should be subtle, matching her energy, phrasing, or gestures lightly, never copying. Validation should feel authentic, not overbearing. Together, these tools build subconscious rapport, making her feel seen, heard, and drawn toward your energy. By using these techniques, attraction becomes effortless. She begins associating comfort, safety, and intrigue with your presence, strengthening emotional engagement without overt effort. Rushing kills desire. Women are drawn to men who respect their own time and pace. Patience signals self-control, confidence. Trying to force attraction accelerates outcomes unnaturally, often triggering resistance or disengagement. Timing is strategic. Allow curiosity to grow, emotional gaps to resonate, and interactions to unfold organically. The slower, intentional build creates anticipation, a psychological effect that amplifies desire. Contrast men who push too fast with those who pace deliberately. The former signals neediness, the latter communicates mastery and composure. Patience also strengthens perceived scarcity. By not immediately fulfilling attention, validation, or affection, you cultivate emotional tension that she naturally wants to resolve through attraction to you. This aligns with scarcity and challenge principles observed in female psychology. Additionally, timing allows you to observe her responses accurately. By waiting, you can identify interest cues, boundaries, and compatibility signals, adjusting your approach intelligently. Acting impulsively often leads to misreading behaviors and erodes attraction. In practice, patience is combined with strategic engagement. Interact fully when present, but let absence and mystery do their work in between. Women notice balance between interest and independence. It signals abundance, stability, and control. Ultimately, mastery of timing turns disinterest into desire. By letting curiosity, scarcity, and anticipation operate naturally, you become the man she can't stop thinking about. Attraction is built on contrast. Women are wired to notice emotional highs and lows, not consistent predictability. When a man demonstrates subtle emotional variation, confidence, playfulness, focus, and independence, he evokes curiosity and longing. This isn't about manipulation, it's about naturally showing depth. Contrast framing is powerful. Compare a man who is always available versus one who alternates between presence and purposeful absence. The former becomes background noise, the latter sparks attention and intrigue. By combining emotional calm with playful unpredictability, you highlight your value without chasing. Subtle emotional highs, moments of warmth, charm, and engagement, contrast with calm detachment in other moments. This dynamic creates tension in her subconscious, making her reflect on what she feels in your presence versus absence. Over time, this contrast fosters anticipation, attachment, and a stronger desire for connection. In short, emotional contrast creates psychological resonance. It's the difference between a man she notices once and a man she can't stop thinking about. Scarcity is one of the most effective attraction triggers. But it must feel authentic. Women are drawn to men who have a fulfilling life, purpose, and independence. Availability that seems unlimited signals low value, while genuine scarcity signals confidence, ambition, and emotional stability. The key is balance. Being scarce doesn't mean ignoring her or playing games. It means prioritizing your own growth, social life, and goals. When she notices that your world doesn't revolve around her, it sparks curiosity and admiration. She begins to perceive your attention as valuable rather than guaranteed. Contrast framing again comes into play. Compare men who over-text, over-commit, and seek validation versus men who maintain presence, but protect their time and energy. The former signals neediness and lowers attraction. The latter communicates abundance, independence, and high self-worth, making her desire your attention naturally. By maintaining scarcity authentically, you create a magnetic pull. She wants your presence because it's meaningful, not because you chase her. Scarcity combined with confidence and emotional control magnifies your perceived value exponentially, transforming disinterest into genuine attraction. Irreplaceability is the pinnacle of attraction. To achieve this, combine three core elements: confidence, mystery, and emotional control. Confidence demonstrates competence and self-assuredness. Mystery keeps her curious and mentally engaged, and emotional control signals stability and high value. Contrast framing is critical. Consider men who are predictable, reactive, and needy. They blend into the crowd. The man who embodies independence, calm authority, and subtle unpredictability becomes unforgettable. He is the standard against which all others are measured. Emotional control is especially crucial. Reacting to every test, message, or attention-seeking behavior reduces perceived value. By maintaining composure, you communicate self-respect, patience, and reliability. Mystery deepens desire, as she continuously seeks to understand your inner world. Confidence completes the trifecta, ensuring that she sees your life as abundant, exciting, and worth pursuing. Being irreplaceable isn't about domination or manipulation. It's about evolving into a man whose presence enriches her life. She doesn't just want you. She values you consistently because you've become the sum of qualities that are rare, magnetic, and psychologically compelling. In essence, becoming irreplaceable seals attraction. By balancing confidence, mystery, and emotional control, you create a magnetic presence that turns fleeting interest into sustained desire.